All right, and we are back up in here this morning to talk about this. Not even a government shutdown, because as I predicted yesterday, the government was not going to shut down. It did not shut down, and this was all just a fake out to get the people riled up. This whole time, I believe this was a fake out. When you get up in here, please say good morning or hi or something so that I know you're here. And we're going to take a look at this news report about the fake out, how they got us. They got us again in our feels and in our emotions about something that was not going to happen. It wasn't about to happen. Morning.
The rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without.
Let me see if I can put this on my headphones here. Can I do it? Can I not? All right, y'all. Let me know if you can hear. If you can hear.
Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
There we have it. It has been officially gavelled in. The Congress appears to have now had its breakthrough and be on a path to avoid a government shutdown this weekend.
You hear the
Julia, I had to intervene so we could hear that, but go ahead.
No, absolutely. As we said, it's not finished till the gavel strikes, and there you have it. So we'll see what the timing turns out to be in the Senate. But reminder, this passed under suspension. So not only did it need to get a majority, it had to get a 2/3 majority, and Democrats helped it over the finish line. Now, how did this happen? How did President-elect Trump be okay with the debt ceiling extension stripped from this provision? Well, a few Republican lawmakers told me that there was a handshake deal in the Republican conference meeting today where Speaker Johnson and House Republicans agreed that they would tackle the debt ceiling extension in the first reconciliation package under President Trump.
Morning, everybody.
Raise that by a $1.5 trillion. And then in addition to that, go for $2.5 trillion in spending cuts. Now, some Republicans have good faith that this handshake deal will hold, but you have others like Representative Burchett who called it a joke, saying that he'll believe it when he sees it. And so this kind of kicks the can down the road. But for now, Speaker Johnson does not have to worry until after the holidays. And with Elon Musk seeming to support him, perhaps his power might not be quite as in jeopardy as it may have seemed 24 hours or so ago, Ari.
Julia, thank you, and thanks for your.
So, Angie, you say this showed us the Kraken Mike Johnson. We cannot trust him. He must go. Give some more information about that. Develop that opinion for me, please.
Reporting. We've been leaning on all of our Capitol Hill journalists and colleagues. Juanita, I want to turn to you on the politics of this. I mentioned in our earlier coverage this week, there are usually off-ramps to these shutdowns.
It's been a while.
They usually get past them, and that certainly was the case finally tonight.
Pats on both sides.
But we also learned a few things along the way, and Elon Musk, I was mentioning just moments ago, he started the week as a kind of a radical, and by Friday night, he didn't get the main thing he was demanding. There are literally dozens of tweets that show the record of what he said he wanted. And he's saying, hey, the status quo, current incumbent Republican politician running the House did it as well as he could given the situation. And I'm wondering if we're watching on-the-job training going from radical to incumbent political talking points pretty quick. And what does Elon have to show,
y'all. So
I guess?
One thing, I'm going to tell y'all, there's a theme for today's stream. Today's stream, the theme of it is, for some reason, the news acts like they don't understand negotiating tactics. They act like they don't understand negotiating tactics. Anybody who is on this stream right now who has children, and if you have kids that are over, let's say 5 or 6, you understand inherently negotiating tactics, because those little Bamas will get on your nerves. They will do the wrong thing. They won't listen to you. And you will promise them a penalty that is so harsh that, of course, you would never do it, right? Like, I'll give you an example. Depending on how bad my kids are or how much they don't listen to me, I might say, look, you'll be in your room for 2 weeks, no phone, no TV. You're going to have to sit in a chair and look at the wall for 2 weeks, right? Now, obviously, nobody can do that. When I say that, I mean, you know, they would have to go to school and go to bathroom, blah, blah, blah. But that's obviously something that cannot be implemented, right? But it is a negotiating tactic. It's a threat. I'm serious. I mean, business, right? That couldn't really be implemented as an actual punishment. But it lets them know, don't play with me right now, because I'm really ready to take your phone. I'm really ready to make your life uncomfortable if you keep doing this thing that you shouldn't be doing. So any parent out there, you already know. Sometimes you have to come with the big stick. And I don't mean physical. I just mean something that gets your kids' attention. But when we see it from the government, when we see it from Trump in particular, people don't understand it anymore. People don't understand that Trump is his modus operandi. The way he works is to come out with huge, exaggerated claims to get your attention. Then he dials it down. They come out with huge, exaggerated demands to get your attention. Then they negotiate it down. They come out saying we're going to have mass deportation of everybody. Then they dial it down to, well, we'll start with the criminals. We'll start with the murderers. We'll start with the people who were in insane asylums in their country, or whatever the case may be. So for some reason, when it comes to Trump, people don't understand his negotiating tactic is the same type of tactic every parent uses. His negotiating tactic is the same type of tactic that everybody uses when they want to get their way. It's inherent. Okay. Even kids use it. Kids will say, Dad, I'll rake the leaves for forever, for the next 5 years, if you just buy me the PS5. They ain't gonna rake the leaves forever. They are not gonna rake the leaves forever. But it is an exaggerated promise to get their way. It's inherent. Everybody at a certain age knows how to do this. I'll love you forever. I'll never leave you. Okay, same thing. I want you to marry me. I want you to be with me. I want you to come back. I want you to not leave me. I promise you I'll do this. I promise you I'll do that. Exaggerated claims, exaggerated promises to get your way. But somehow, when it comes to Trump, people don't understand. Dandelion, I have a rule here. If you have something to say the entire thing. Just saying you disagree doesn't tell me anything. You didn't say how you disagree. You didn't say what would be a better analogy. All you say is you disagree. That doesn't help. Okay. So if you have a disagreement, tell me why you disagree, or how, or what would be a better thing to say. Say something. Okay, Dan. Okay, my mistake. I didn't see it. My mistake. Okay, let's read how Dandelion disagrees with me. So I apologize. Well, if the government hadn't been shut down last time, I'd believe that, but he's done it before, so I believe he'll do it again. Not believing him is why people who voted him are being. Not believing him is why people who voted for him are being deported. So only citizens can vote, Dandelion. And since only citizens can vote, I don't know how people who voted for him are being deported. How can you vote if only a citizen can vote and a citizen cannot be deported? How can you vote for him and be deported? Explain that to me. Did people lose their citizenship or something? I don't understand that. And if the government hadn't been shut down last time, I believe that. Oh, sometimes the extreme penalty does obtain. I am not saying I am certainly not saying that the penalty or the extreme promise never obtains. So I didn't say that. It's a threat. Sometimes it does come to fruition. Yeah. But your goal when you make the promise is not to bring the threat to fruition. Your goal is to get your way. If you don't get your way, sometimes the penalty does obtain and sometimes it doesn't. So my analogy is based on your criticism or what have you, it still holds. What I didn't say is that you never intend to do this, or that even if you don't intend to do it, that you won't do it eventually. Sometimes, yeah, you will go ahead and, okay, you don't believe me? Well, let's do it. Maybe you didn't even intend to do it. Maybe it was just a threat. But then once they called your bluff, you were like, okay, well, I didn't even think I was going to have to do this, but let's do it. So, the idea is the original intent is to just have a threat in order to get your way. That's my point.
This week.
I feel like the only thing he has to show is that he's a South African billionaire who doesn't know anything about Congress or American politics. That's the headline here, Ari. He's backing off because he's starting to learn about the guardrails associated with him taking something from an idea that he posts about on the social media site that he purchased to actually affecting it as a plan, and realizing that it's unrealistic and disconnected from reality in DC. He's going to run into that a lot, Ari.
All right, y'all. So let's take a look at this X post real quick. Elon Musk wanted to have the funding bill reduced. He wanted to have it. He wanted to cut it down. He wanted to have a lot of additional spending, unnecessary spending removed. And there were other things that he wanted that he didn't get. According to this post, and y'all, I'm certainly not signing this. I'm not signing my name to this. It says President Trump delivered a significant win as the House passed the smallest CR in history. Started at 1,500 pages, cut down to 120. No raise for member of Congress, no protections for J6 committee, gives $20 billion for agricultural disaster assistance, gives $10 billion in aid for farmers impacted by hurricanes. And also, according to this news report, there's a handshake deal on the debt limit, the debt ceiling being extended, which I'm not a fan of, but the debt ceiling being extended in the future. So as you can see, the news they'll come on to the news, and I'm not gonna say she's lying, but she's spinning it. Maybe that's her job, but this lady is obviously spinning the news, which is they did extract significant concessions from the Democrats with this bill.
And I think that's something that I maybe will slow him down. I do think that is not going to stop him threatening congressional Republicans again and again and again. And let's be real, that's a strong arm tactic he saw Donald Trump deploy for years. And so I think this is.
But she's right about that. Did you see? That's what I'm saying. Threatening is a strong arm tactic that Donald Trump uses. So do we all. This lady, I guarantee you, uses the strong arm tactic in her personal life. If she has kids, she uses it. If she has a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever she prefers, she uses it, because we all use it. We all use the strong arm tactic in our life, period. So it's just a human thing to make threats, to make huge threats, make huge promises to try to get our way. It's literally the way we work. It's the way we operate.
Real, that's a strong arm tactic he saw Donald Trump deploy for years. And so I think this is a wake-up call to them about who's in control. And I hope that the headlines about this bill passing that we just saw was brought to you by Democrats. That's the headline. And that's why I laughed a little bit when the reporter was talking about a handshake deal among Republicans, when Republicans can't do anything without Democrats. They have no control here, even though they have a minuscule margin going into the next Congress. And with that in mind, I look to Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and I look to Democrats, and I wonder how long they will hold the line, how long they will hold up these boundaries that they set this week as an example to a guardrail on what Republicans can and can't do, because Republicans cannot do anything in the next Congress or this one without Democrats.
See, everything she just said, not everything, 90% of what she just said is it just you know, you don't have credibility when you can't give a balanced take. So this is probably my first time ever listening to this lady, and her take is totally imbalanced. So I feel like at some point, the mainstream media, if that's the term we're going to use, people like this, they need to come to the understanding that, yeah, you can have your side, you can pick your side, you can advocate for your side, but be more balanced, right? So, but this is MSNBC. So of all of the major news networks, MSNBC is the most imbalanced as it relates to the left. So, you know, it is what it is. I guess this is what we should expect from them.
Molly, can I ask you a simple question?
Sure.
Have we learned this week that writing legislation might be harder than writing tweets?
I mean, I already knew that, and maybe Elon knows that now as well. I think Juanita is right that this was a pretty pointless expenditure of political capital on Elon Musk's part. He accomplished basically a 3-day delay and had very little to show for it. This bill does not reduce spending from what would have been in the original bill. It may, in fact, be more expensive. Most of the top line items that were important to people, there are some bells and whistles that got dropped, but most of those big top line items are still in this bill, which is why the House Democrats and the White House, and it looks like the Senate Democrats have come around to support it. They did not get the one demand that President-elect Trump had. So he didn't get anything out of this delay either. All they got was a lot of aggravation, and I think a wake-up call for Republicans that, as Juanita said, it is not going to be easy for them to govern with the tiny margins that they have next year. And there is going to be a lot of this type of chaos, as there was during the first Trump presidency. I mean, I am certainly having episodes of deja vu, remembering how chaotic it was the first time around. This time, with the addition of Elon Musk, it may be even more so.
All right, y'all. So again, going back to this tweet, let's see how, I guess, people who are on, quote, the other side are spinning it. So we have 1,500-page bill, which was cut down to 120. You do wonder what was all of that was. One second. You do wonder what was all of that was in the bill. If you cut it down to 120 pages from 1,500, there has to be something significant that was cut out of the bill that would reduce it from 1,500 pages to 120 pages, right? And again, no raise for Congress. Now, I was interested in this question because it seems to me that the raise for Congress thing, it seems like that might have been something of a mistake or an error that people were making. From what I heard, and this is just, you know, somebody commenting on it, that a raise for Congress was not included, but that the bill just mentioned that if Congress had been receiving regular raises, that their pay would have been a lot higher. So I would like to ask y'all a question. I think Congress makes $176,000 right now. What is the pay for a U.S. congressperson? Y'all, I think congressmen make somewhere around $174,000, okay, per year. And I don't know what their budget would be as it relates to travel, staff, accommodations because remember, Congress people have to travel to and from Washington, D.C. I would say relatively frequently. They have to go to their hometown, which for somebody in Maryland is a drive, which for somebody in Virginia may be a longer drive, which for somebody in Ohio or, you know, Missouri or whatever, you're starting to talk about getting on a plane. You're talking about having hotels or maybe having somewhere. Well, I guess maybe you would have a home in your hometown, so maybe you wouldn't need a hotel. But Congress people are going to be traveling a lot. They need a travel budget, so maybe they have it, maybe they don't. My question is $174,000. do you all think that they should get a forget whether they deserve a raise based on the type of job they're doing? That's not the question. The question is not, does Congress deserve a raise based on how good of a job they're doing? That's not the question. The question is, should a person in Congress, let's say the new guy, the new woman who's just coming in, should their job, is that a job that deserves a $174,000 pay, or should it be higher? Should the very first person who's never been in Congress before, they're just about to come in, does that job, in your opinion, is it a $174,000 job? What do you think is a good pay for a congressperson? Let's say that's just taken over. I would say that I have heard people say that their pay is low, and that is a contributing factor, or could be a contributing factor, to corruption. In other words, they get into this prestigious position. It's probably more than an 8-hour-a-day job. Who knows? It requires a lot of expenditure, and that could be a reason why we see them scrounging for money. That they're constantly looking to try to bring money in the door because they just don't make enough. Tat says, in my opinion, whatever minimum wage is, unless they're willing to bring it up. So you're saying that Congress people should make $7.25 an hour? Okay, so Tat thinks that Congress people. So Tat, so basically you're saying, it sounds to me like you're saying that we should seek people whose market value is $7.25 an hour to be our Congress people. So right now, the people who represent us in Congress, their market value is, let's just say that they worked 40 hours a week. I know they don't, but $174,000 divided by 2,080 hours per year. So right now we have $83 an hour people, let's say. So Tat, you're saying we should look for $7 an hour people to represent us in Congress. Is that what you're saying? So Tat would like to find people who are 10 times less qualified, or 10 times who have a market value of 10 times less than the people that we currently have. I don't know. I don't think I would agree with that. I wouldn't want the $7.25 an hour person representing me in Congress. If I have an $83 an hour person, I wouldn't want to reduce that to the $7 an hour person. That's just me. But we're all entitled to our opinions here. So I think personally, I wouldn't have a problem with the idea that a congressperson should make, $200 or $250 or whatever the case may be. I don't like the idea of rewarding the current Congress people that we may be unhappy with. So that's not what I'm saying. But just the idea of the position itself having a value of $250,000 a year, or whatever the case may be, I don't have a problem with that. I certainly don't. So let's take a look here. Hold on one second. Let's take a look at some of the reaction that some people are giving to this shutdown being. Hold up one second.
Bill, which will now head to the Senate.
Let's see what the Young Turk says.
Some really interesting things about it. First of all, it passed 366 to 34, very, very easily. One Democrat voted present. The only no votes were Republicans. So all but one of the Democrats were on board. And look, with a bill this big, obviously there's gonna be a lot that we don't know about it. But I'm left asking some questions. I'm gonna read you a few quotes from some of the big stakeholders in this big fight, and it's only gonna probably confuse you more. So the bill extends federal funds to mid-March, so we won't have a shutdown for several months. sends more than $100 billion in relief to farmers and natural disaster victims. So it did the two major additional components of disaster relief and helping to offset some of the lingering effects of Donald Trump's trade war with China. It reauthorizes the sweeping agriculture policy and anti-poverty law called the Farm Bill. So what does it not do? Well, plenty, I'm sure, but specifically, it doesn't suspend or eliminate the debt ceiling. Okay, so it has the major additional spending and it doesn't suspend the debt ceiling, which is why I'm kind of confused when Donald Trump and Elon Musk are apparently really, really happy with it.
Okay, so the reason they're happy is because they got a handshake deal that they will deal with the debt ceiling later. I mean, people know this, y'all, and so much of this is performative. So much of this media that you see on TV is just performative. It's just performance. You know what I mean? It's just side taking and people expressing the opinion of their side.
Musk says that Johnson did a good job here, given the circumstances. He went on to say they took a bill that weighed pounds to a bill that weighed ounces. Now, granted, he has proven himself recently to not be a great guy with math, but it doesn't seem like they cut it significantly. Donald Trump apparently is on board too. Johnson said he knew exactly what we were doing and why, and this is a good outcome for the country, when the only thing about the prior bills that Trump seemed to have a problem with was that they did not suspend the debt ceiling.
Again, we already heard there is a handshake deal to do it in the future. So what Trump extracted is a deal to do it in the future.
Perhaps until 2029, and this doesn't. So they don't seem to have gotten any of the concessions they want. The Democrats are all on board, and yet Musk and Trump are sort of declaring victory.
That makes no sense at all. I have a potential explanation, but David, do you have more details?
Yeah, if you look at the first bill that came over 2 nights ago, right, Plan A, right, and that was the 1,500-page bill that had all kinds of different programs. Well, yes, while some of those programs, including the ad bill, the $100 billion, and also the disaster aid, while that's still there, some of the other priorities and some of the other language that was in the original bill got stripped out. And so if you look at, for example, Plan B, which was this essentially stripped down version of Plan A, but had Donald Trump's essentially getting rid of the debt ceiling. Now imagine Plan B, but without the debt ceiling. That's sort of my understanding of where this came down. And I think the important point here is that Democrats did not get some of the agreed upon provisions that they had expected, that they had negotiated. However, Republicans did not get, and Donald Trump did not get, the lifting of the debt ceiling. And keep in mind, I mean, Trump said just 2 days ago, there will be a government shutdown if we don't get rid of the debt ceiling or we don't suspend it. Well, too bad. Donald Trump lost on that. Democrats lost on some of their priorities that they had wanted. Everybody seemed to be in agreement on the $100 billion farm bill and the disaster aid. And there seems to be, of course, this agreement that we should keep the government funding through March. So this essentially is a punt, right? You keep the government open for 3 more months. You get the 2 big items that everybody wanted. And what Donald Trump wanted, raising the debt ceiling, and some of what Democrats wanted, you don't get.
But David, that still doesn't explain why the Democrats voted for it. Because, I mean, we're not getting rid of the debt ceiling like Trump wanted, but the Democrats also wanted to get rid of the debt ceiling. So that's not really a compromise for them. They don't get anything out of that. They actually agreed with Trump.
Well, yes and no, because keep in mind, I mean, Donald Trump cannot pass his tax cuts without raising the debt ceiling, right? Because the Congressional Budget Office is going to say that the tax cuts are going to cost the economy because of lost revenue to the government, revenue that you're not going to get, $500 billion.
So y'all looked into these tax cuts yesterday, very briefly, and yeah, these tax cuts, on my first review of them, they definitely seem to benefit you if you're making more money, if you're one of the top earners, or if you're the owner or operator of a corporation. So that's on my first cursory review. Tax cuts, Trump tax cuts seem like they're going to the wealthier people for sure.
$1 trillion, whatever it is. Well, Donald Trump's not going to be able to pass his tax cuts without raising the debt ceiling. So now he's got a problem, right? What his Democrats have essentially did is they said, look, we're punting because we're going to be able to extract some concessions from Donald Trump. If he really wants to raise the debt ceiling in March in order to pass his tax cuts, here are all the different items that we Democrats are going to demand from him. And instead of having to do this sort of ad hoc with Speaker Johnson at the end of President Biden's term, the Democrats can be loaded to bear at the beginning of the Trump administration with their laundry list of things saying, okay, you want to raise the debt ceiling? Here are all the different things we demand that are part of the next budget. So, yeah, I mean, in some ways, it doesn't make a lot of sense right now for Democrats to go along with this. But if you look at the big picture of where Democrats hope to be in the spring, I think it does make some strategic sense.
All right, so that does begin to explain it. But
yeah,
I have more thoughts on it. Go ahead.
Sure, I would have to see like a full list of all the things that were cut. It seems like some of the little things that like Vivek Ramaswamy was talking about on Twitter were so minuscule in comparison to the stuff that's still in this, that to declare that something that weighed pounds is now ounces seems like protesting a bit too much there, which I guess is a good thing. And in terms of Trump, like he's gonna be sworn in on the 20th. They're gonna begin fights over this like 3 weeks into his term, which seems like the worst possible scenario for him. And also, like I don't really buy that he cared about any of the individual components of all of this. I think that he cares about big things like massively cutting the taxes of the wealthiest people in the country. So this seems like a major loss for him. I don't really buy that he cared about the funding aspect of this 1% as much about getting rid of the debt ceiling, particularly because he doesn't care at all about the deficit. He doesn't care at all about the national debt, and he was always going to blow that out of the water. So that would have given.
I'm not a fan of that, y'all. I am certainly not a fan of blowing the debt out of the water. I don't know for sure that that's what Trump wants to do, or that's what he will do. But getting rid of the debt ceiling is concerning to me.
Him free reign to do that, not only with the tax cuts, but God only knows what other bills. So now he doesn't have that. I don't know. This just seems like, if you go back a week ago, before we thought that Elon Musk was going to dedicate every waking second of his life to destroying this deal, I think most people assumed that some sort of deal would be reached. So now it has been. Trump has laid out what his line was, and they didn't go along with it. Remember, as we're gonna talk about potentially, like 38 Republicans defected on the previous bill after Musk and Trump had said very clearly what they wanted. I don't know, I could be wrong. I feel like this entire process now, with hindsight, makes them look kind of weak, like they didn't really seemingly get what they wanted out of this. Maybe a little bit of pork, I guess they can say symbolically they did some efficiency stuff.
Okay, so here's my theory as to why Elon Musk and Donald Trump are declaring victory, even though they don't seem to have gotten any victory at all. Because this is a classic Trump thing. He says that he wants something, he huffs and he puffs, right? But if he doesn't get it and he thinks he's not going to get it and he thinks he's going to lose that battle, he just goes right past it. I've seen him do it so many times, right? Which leads to part two. If he huffs and puffs and it doesn't work, when they get a new deal, it doesn't matter if it's nearly identical. If there's just a comma in a different place, he goes, I declare victory. It's not the Trump bill, okay? And so this is fantastic because he's thinking, nobody's gonna read the bill anyway, right? It's not like my followers are gonna read the bill and be like, oh no, wait a minute, this is 98% similar to the other bill. And if mainstream media reports that, they're not gonna believe him anyway. I'll tell them it was a huge victory and they'll just believe me. And I think that's what happened here. And why did they do that? Because they created a hot mess. And
all right, y'all. So I want to acknowledge kind of two different perspectives we have in the chat, right? This is not directly related to what we're watching Jink or Chink say, but let's take a look at Tat. Tat says the rich get richer, the poorer stay at the bare minimum. Let's just say that you're right. Let's just say you're right. The rich get richer and the poor stay at the bare minimum. You know what? I'm going to tell you a question I asked my 10-year-old daughter. It's a question I asked my 10-year-old daughter. Okay? I asked her this within the last 2 weeks. Okay? So this wasn't a long time ago. I said, baby, would you rather be you today with your heat, your cooling, your phone, your TV, your cable. This is stuff poor people have, by the way, y'all. We're not poor, but poor people in this country have heating and cooling. Poor people in this country have a TV. Poor people in this country have internet or cable. I'm not saying they all do. I'm not saying that the poorest of the poorest of the poorest of the poor have these things, but people considered poor, people who are considered poor and who consider themselves poor in this country have access to heating and cooling, a car often, not all of them. Some of them don't. So don't come at me like, oh, well, okay. A lot of poor people have a car, some kind of transportation. They get on the bus. They have transportation. Let's say they don't even have their own car. They have the access to public transportation. They have TV. They have internet. They have a cell phone. They have blah, 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 blah. They have stuff. PS5, whatever. So I said to my daughter, I said, baby, would you rather be you today with the stuff you have, or would you rather be a queen with everything a queen would have had from 300 years ago or 400 years ago when there were kings and queens? You know, like, would you rather have had all the stuff a queen would have had, a castle, land, peasants who serve you, you know, all of that stuff from 400 years ago or 300 or whatever? Or would you rather be you today with all the modern technology, the modern medicine, all of, you know, the internet, blah, 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 cars, roads? She was like, oh, I'd rather be me for sure. I'd rather be me for sure. I'd rather be me as me today than me as a queen from 400 years. Now, why do I make that point? Because the bare minimum continues to rise. So even if you have somebody at the bare minimum today, it's still, generally speaking, much better than the bare minimum from 50 years ago. And it's still better than the bare minimum from 100 years ago. And it's still better than the bare minimum from 20 years ago. So while you may be correct, the poor are always at the bare minimum. It's almost like, who could be at the bare minimum if it's not the poor? There's always going to be a minimum. There's always going to be some minimum. And guess who's going to be there? The people who have the least. There will never be a time when there isn't a minimum. And guess who will always be the people at that minimum? The poor people. Because if they had the maximum, they wouldn't be the poor. So you almost said, this is almost like saying what's called a tautology. If anybody who doesn't know what a tautology is basically saying the same thing twice at the same time. The poor are at the bare minimum. That's like, duh. Who else could be at the bare minimum? The middle class? Then it's not the minimum. The rich can't be at the minimum. The only people who could be at the minimum are the poor. Do you see what I'm saying? That's like saying the tallest guy in the class is taller than everybody else. Well, you kind of said that when you said tallest, didn't you? You didn't need to say the rest of taller than everybody else, because the word tallest by default means taller than everybody else. You didn't need the rest of that sentence. So, of course, the poorest are at the bare minimum, or the poor, because they by default, the poorest people are at that's the definition. So, but the standard of what the bare minimum is today is much better than what the bare minimum was previously. And that was much better than what the bare minimum was previous to that. Now, I'm not saying that the standards never go down. I'm not saying, but the trajectory of history seems to be that the standard has gone up on average over time. But yeah, there's dips. So, you know, you could have a war, you could have slavery, you could have outbreaks of disease, you can have all kinds of things that causes the standard to go down, right? So you got bad administration from the government. There's all kinds of things that could cause the standard to go down, right? And it might not be equal. The standard might go down faster for poor people. In fact, I would imagine anytime the standard goes down, it probably goes down fastest for the poorest people. So generally speaking, that's probably going to be the case. But over the arc of history, the standard has gone up on average. So while you may be right that the poor people stay at the bare minimum, again, that's a tautology. That's saying the same thing twice. That's saying that the least people have the least stuff, or the people with the least have the least. The people with the least don't have as much as everybody else. Yeah, that's literally saying the same thing twice. The people with the least don't have as much as everybody else. Well, if they had as much as everybody else, then they wouldn't be the people with the least, now would they? But the least, whatever is considered the least, has been increasing. And Tat, if I'm not mistaken, you're Boricua, right? So you already know that the least here on the mainland is much more than the least, in Puerto Rico. It's much more than the least in Haiti. It's much more than the least in pretty much every other country in the world besides a few. Okay, so whatever we considered the bare minimum here is much higher. It's our bare minimum, our minimum wage. If you could earn $7.25 an hour in my wife's country, you would be making good money. People be like, yo, you make that much? Like, if I'm a dude, let me tell y'all something, man. Let me tell y'all how much I be making. Let me tell y'all one real quick. Yo, if I was a dude making $7.25, if I'm a single dude, no bull, y'all. If I'm a single dude in the Dominican Republic making $7.25 an hour, the equivalent, literally, I wouldn't be rich, so I'm not going to exaggerate, but like I would want a shirt. I would want a shirt that says how much I make, because I would be at any bar, in any club, in any whatever. You know what I'm saying? I would be that guy. And I wouldn't be rich. I would not be rich. I'm not going to say that. But I would be attractive just for my money. Let's put it like that. Just for my money, I would be attractive. I could be all day and night. I could just line them up. You know what I'm saying? I could just be, all right, you come over at 8 a.m. and then I'm going to see you at 11. And I could just, you know what I'm saying? Because I would be making that kind of money. At $7.25 an hour, I would be balling. Not rich, though. I would be balling. So, Tat, yes, of course, the people at the bare minimum are the poor people. That is a tautology. That's literally saying the same thing twice. The rich people couldn't be at the bare minimum, because then they wouldn't be rich, would they? Now, let's go with Melaza con sabor. Maybe another Latino, I don't know, Spanish-speaking person. Now, are you a victim? So I think this is going at Tat. We PR always find a way to make our profit. So I guess Boricua, or I guess we PR always find a way to make our profit. We are in the land of opportunity. They print money every day. Figure out a legal way to gain it. Much, much more in line with my way of seeing things. Much more in my line of my way of seeing things. We're looking at a country that has a $35 trillion debt right now. That means they spent that money. We spent 35 trillion extra dollars more than we brought in. And we're just going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in debt every day. During COVID, the country, I heard a stat that all of the money in circulation, meaning of all of the money out there during COVID, something like 40% of it was printed during COVID. So in other words, during all the time we had money creation, once we got to COVID, 40% of all that money was created right during COVID. If you couldn't figure out a way to get some of that money, don't blame anybody else, because like what better opportunity are you looking for? You're talking about 40% of the history of 200 years of history of money being created, and 40% of that is created within like 2 years and is put on the street, and you can't get your share. I mean, what else what do you need people to do for you? What do you need people to do? All right, this is kind of a rant. I'm sorry. But this is what I do, y'all. So, it is what it is. If we have 250 years of history and we created X amount of money, and then within 2 years, we create 40% of that whole 200 and we put that on the street, and you like, I just can't figure. I mean, yeah, prices went up, but you know what? That means people was getting paid more money. That means the gas station was making more money. That means that when I went to buy some chicken wings and they went from like $7.99 to like $12.99 overnight, guess what? That means somebody was making more money. I had to pay that. So I'm like, yo, if I got to pay that, I got to go get that too. You know what the benefit was? They just put that on the street. They just literally, it was out there to get. So I have a paralegal company. We had our best year ever during COVID because people had more money and they was enrolling. Bow, 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 bow. I was seeing months that I never seen before. I was like, oh, shoot. But you know what? I had to go get it. I had days where we were spending $1,000 a day on. I had never done Facebook ads in my life. I didn't know anything about it. And when COVID hit, I was like, oh, shoot, this company is going under. And I was like, yo, what am I going to do? And I was like, we got to figure out a way, because this was an in-person business, meaning you had to come in person. We had to go online. We had to go online, first of all, with COVID. And I'm like, nobody knows who we are because we've been in person for 20 years. What are we going to do? And I'm like, okay, I got to start getting the word out there. So I started doing Facebook ads. At some point, I went from like whatever it is that we started with, which within a very short amount of time, I was spending $1,000 every. This was not a company with like $500,000 saved up or $1 million. This was like, yo, if it goes out, I gotta bring it back in. I gotta make some freaking sales. I gotta enroll some people. I gotta do some classes. And at some point, I'm doing $1,000, over $1,000, but the average at that point was $1,000. I did not know if that $1,000 was coming back. I had to make it come back. And this is not having a huge bank account where I'm like, well, if it doesn't work, I'm still good. No, this was like life or death. This was like, if this doesn't work, I'm out of my $1,000 a day. Plus, I can't pay the employees. Plus, we basically going out of business. But you know what? The government had just put 40% of all money that had ever been created. They was just putting it on the street. So it was like, oh, okay, it's out there. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. So I'm going with Con Sabor. You know what I'm saying? I'm definitely more on the side of Con Sabor. I don't see this whole thing about lack of opportunity, about the government needs to help us. Now, I did get that government money. I didn't need the government's help, but I certainly did go out there and get that money that they was giving to people because they were enrolling at record numbers and creating huge pay. And the government was also enrolling people in workshops and stuff. So I did go get that government money. You know what I mean? But PPP, I think my company got like $6,000 off PPP. So it was very, very minimal, very minimal. So I would say between TAT and Melaza, I'm going with Melaza. I teach my kids this. We not poor. I don't care how much money we don't have. We are not poor. We're rich. And you can go out there and get it. I don't accept any kind of, and my kids, they buy it, right? Like they're mentally, they're in tune with it. We're not poor. We'll never be poor. I don't care how much. I don't care if we have $0 in the bank. Poorness is not our mentality. It's not our attitude. We can't be poor because we are us. We're always capable. We are in probably the richest country that has ever existed in the history of the world. So if we're poor in the richest country that ever existed in the history of the world that we know of, then we're truly effed. If we're anywhere else or at any other time, we would be dead. But you know what? No, we wouldn't, because we are not poor people. Doesn't matter what it doesn't matter what's happening out there. We are not poor. We can't be poor because we're us. So, I don't identify with poorness or poverty. I don't care how much money I do or don't have. Poverty can't infect me. Now, I will say this as a person who's never had major health problems, so I do want to give that caveat. When you go through health problems, when you go through situations where you can't work and you can't produce, that's different. So I'm not, I get it. Things can happen in life that can knock you off track, particularly health issues, mental health issues, so I'm not trying to say there's an excuse, but there's definitely things that can happen that can derail people. I get that. And I'm certainly not making light of that. But as a person who's just lived a normal life, who's had normal experiences, who's never been debilitated, I've never been hospitalized, I've never been in a mental institution. Nah, man. Nah, we're not poor. We couldn't be poor because we are not poor. It doesn't matter about the money we have. It's us as humans. You know what I'm saying? So I'm more with Melaza with this, y'all. I know this is like a totally off, totally kind of ranting on other things, but I'm not rich either, y'all. I mean, I don't have $1 million net worth. I wish I did. Maybe if y'all start giving a brother some super chats, maybe we can get there. I don't have $1 million net worth. So, before y'all think, oh, this, but nah, we good, but we not like that. All right. Melaza said, raising the minimum wage affect the economy and the value of the dollar in a real bad way. So let me give y'all my rant for those of y'all who are sticking with me. My rant about minimum wage. I'll be honest, y'all. I'm back and forth about minimum wage. I'm back and forth about it because I'm more of a libertarian. I'm not a hard libertarian. I'm kind of a soft libertarian, y'all. And I'm back and forth. You catch me today, I'm like, yeah, we should have a minimum wage and it should be, it should kind of go up with the cost of living in a sense, right? You catch me tomorrow, I'm like, yo, we don't even need no minimum wage. I would say my default position is more on the side of, yeah, let's have a minimum wage, okay? And if we're going to have one, it should be somehow indexed to the cost of living. So I'm back and forth with that, I'll be honest. But if we're going to have one, it should mean something. $7.25 doesn't mean anything. So I would say I'm on the side of, if we're going to have a minimum wage, which we do, it shouldn't just be whatever, $7.25 is just whatever. It's laughable. So while I'm not a strong fan of the minimum wage, I'm not going to argue for it. I'm not going to get out there and protest if they wanted to get rid of it. I kind of don't care about it. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect my family. I don't associate in any way, shape, or form with a minimum anything. The word minimum and me don't have anything to do with each other, especially as it relates to wage. But if we're going to have one, it should be respectable. So we do have one. Let's make it respectable or just get rid of it. That's the way I look at it. Respectable minimum wage. It's a countrywide thing. It's a federal thing. So I don't want to put a number on it because, as Trump said in a different interview that I was just watching before today, as Trump said, we have a big country. It's not really possible to put one single minimum wage for the whole country due to cost of living differences from here to there. But $7.25 is certainly below whatever it should be. Okay. So if we're going to have it, $7.25 is below whatever it should be. First minimum wage job, 1970s, $5.25 an hour. I can say with certainty that is factually incorrect, unless you're talking about your state minimum wage, or unless it went down. Because my first job in 1994, somewhere around there, minimum wage was $4.25. Minimum wage was somewhere around $4.25 when I got my first job. I think it was 1994, 95, something like that. When I was like 14, 15. I don't know if it was my absolute first job, but it was like one of those early jobs in my life. And $4.25, if I'm not mistaken, was my so it couldn't have been $5.25 in the 70s unless you're saying it went down from the 70s to the 90s. Andre, I agree with you that at least America is rich as compared to Jamaica. Yeah, so Andre lives in Jamaica. So Andre, you already know I've been to Jamaica. Quite some time ago, probably 20 years ago now. But shoot, once you start comparing the US to other countries, most countries in the world, come on, man. There's no comparison. There's no comparison, y'all. Many people would sacrifice a lot just to earn minimum wage. Yeah, exactly. So now I'm not saying that people who are at the bottom, so to speak, should just be happy about it. That's not my point. So let me make that clear. I'm not saying people at the bottom should just suck it up and feel good about it. That's not my point. It's about the opportunity. It's about the si se puede. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know what I'm saying. My Spanish speaking people, you know? So it's about the opportunity that we have here. So y'all heard my whole rant. Oh, Tat, I'm not saying you're a victim. So that's not my point of view at all. Okay. So I'm not saying that. I was just reading somebody's comment. And I don't think that Melasa was saying that. I don't know for sure. It's that you have what we might call an abundance mentality and a scarcity mentality. Abundance mentality is I go outside, I see the sun, I see all of the plants, I breathe the air. I woke up this morning. I look around, there's endless resources around me. There's endless amount of everything. There are endless number of cars, there's endless number of houses, there's endless number of people. I have endless choices of what I want to do today, to engage with on the internet or TV. I have literally 8 billion people that I could meet today if I so decide. I could write a book about endless different. So you just look around and you say, I'm not limited by anything. I mean, I'm limited by gravity, you know, there are limitations, right? But within the context of human life, I'm not limited. I'm just unlimited. I could do anything today. That's an abundance mentality. I could go get anything. I could go find anything. I could go meet anyone. I could do whatever. That's the abundance mentality. The scarcity mentality is, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay for this? Oh my gosh, what if this happens? What if I invest in that and I lose it? Why aren't they paying me more? When is the government going to help me? You see the difference in my tone of voice, right? When is the government going to help me? Why won't somebody fix that? Not saying that anybody has a purely abundance or purely scarcity mentality, right? It's not that any person totally embodies everything or one mentality and not. We all are a mix, right? You might be abundant about everything, but then when you see the pothole in your road, you're like, oh man, somebody needs to fix that. You're not saying you're gonna fix it, you know. So there's a mix, and I think the scarcity mentality is mixed with is identified with victimhood. I'm waiting for somebody to help me. I need the help of the government. I need somebody to pay. I need my supervisor to pay me more money. Like, would you please just pay me more? Would the government please make that person give me more money? Government, why are you allowing them to pay me so little? That's like scarcity. Some people call it victim. Okay. It's not that you see yourself as a victim, but in the popular parlance, is that the word, y'all? In the popular discussion, people will say it's a victim mentality when you're essentially begging, and Tat, don't get mad at me, okay? But when you're begging the government to make somebody give you more money, it's literally like, yo, would you make this person pay me more? And people on the other side were like, yo, go out and find another job. Raise your skill set up. Start your own business. Like, stop telling the government to make those people pay you more. If they don't want to pay you more, they don't have to pay you more. You feel me? Like, if the company you're working for doesn't want to pay you more, they just don't have to. The government has nothing to do with it. Literally, the government is out of it, as they should be. If you're not getting paid enough, go somewhere else and get paid more, or start your own thing. So that's called the victim mentality, when you want to get the government to make the company you work for give you more money. So it's not that you're actually a victim of something. It's not actually a victim of, like, it's not that you're actually a victim of something, but it is a mentality that you can't just do it yourself, that you have to go and supplicate to the guys with the guns, which is the government, to say, point the guns at my boss and make my boss give me more money. You see, the guys with the guns who can have it legally, i.e. the government, would you please take your guns, come to where I work, point those guns at my boss, at my manager, at the owner, and tell my manager, my owner, the company's owner, that they have to pay me more money, or that you're going to use the guns against them. That's a victim mentality. Other people would say, why don't you just get another job? Why don't you go and raise your skill set up? Why don't you start your own business? Why don't you do something yourself instead of going appealing to the guys with the guns to point the guns at the person you work for to make that person pay you more? That's the minimum wage, basically. So anyway, Hair Alchemist, $335 for your first job. Where did you work? I think my first job was at a local theme park, if I'm not mistaken. And I think I made $425 in 1994, 1995, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a long time. If you make $725, how can you afford to live? I think, Chadiggy, the question is, if you can't afford to live on $725, why would you go work for that amount? Why would you go work for an amount that you can't afford to live on? That's my question. If you say, man, I need $15 an hour to live, and most of us live in some kind of area where there are jobs that pay more than $725, right? Most of us. So my question, Chadiggy, is, if you calculate you need 15 or 20 or 30, whatever the number is, if you calculate that you need $15 and there are companies paying $7, why are you even trying to work there? Chadiggy, it's almost like you're saying, you know, if you need 10 gallons of gas to get where you're going, you know, how can you afford to get there if you only have 5 gallons of gas? Well, you know what? Don't you need to go get the 10 gallons so you can arrive to your destination? It almost seems to me, and this is, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but if I need $15 and I'm willing to work for half of that, whose fault is that? I mean, like, I shouldn't even say willing to, because maybe I say, you know what, I need to get working quick. I'm gonna take this $725, but shouldn't I be in a $15 an hour job within 3-6 months, whatever the case may be? You know, not saying that there's absolutely no reason you would take that job in the short term. You know, maybe you just say, look, I'm gonna take what I can get, but shouldn't you be getting into your $15 an hour job quickly thereafter? So, Chadiggy, I think the real question is, if you need X to live, why would you be working for under X? Is it because that's all anybody's willing to pay? Is that their fault that they're only willing to pay you $7.25? What if you need $100 an hour to live? What if you need $200 an hour to live? And they're only willing to pay you $30? Is that their fault? Should the government tell them that they have to pay you what you need to live? I just don't. I don't think that the job market should be based on what you need to live. Right? That's why I say I'm back and forth with the minimum wage. I think it should be respectable if we're going to have one. We should make it a number that makes some kind of sense. But I don't think we should try to make it what you need to live. You know why? Because that's up to you. It's not up to the government to make sure you can pay your bills. It's up to you. It's not up to the government to make sure that there are jobs out there paying what you need to live. It's up to you to make sure you can go get the money that you need to live. That's the type of system we have. We have the type of system where you go get what you need. The government doesn't give it to you. Andre says, yeah, the problem in my country is opportunities. If I lived in America, I would be good. Also, if I was healthy. Andre, yes. So that's why I said earlier, health issues is something that I'm certainly excluding from my rant. Any type of health issues could knock somebody off their game and make things totally difficult. I mean, serious health issues. So that's excluded from my rant. Totally excluded. Also, y'all, I lived in the Dominican Republic for some time. And I'm going to tell y'all something. If I couldn't use the internet, if I had to integrate myself into the Dominican Republic economy and not use the internet the way I'm doing now to talk to y'all, but I had to actually try to work and live there, it would be very difficult to make good money. The opportunities are not there like they are here. If I can hop on the internet, I'll just make money online like I do now. I've been making money online for years. I would just access the U.S. economy online like I do every day. But if I was in a DR and I had to exclude making money in the States, it'll be very difficult. The opportunities are just not there. There, if you're an engineer, you might make under $1,000 a month. Frankly, doctors make under $1,000 a month. Lawyers make under $1,000. I'm not saying that no lawyers or no doctors make more than that, but you could very well be a doctor, dentist, engineer making under $1,000 a month. Okay. So you're talking about a place where things really, it's really much more difficult. And I arrived there with this attitude I have that y'all are hearing. Oh man, I can make it anyway. If I got the internet, you take the internet away from me, or you take the ability to work in the States, and I just had to do what they have to do, it'll be tough. Not saying I wouldn't make it work, but it would be a lot tougher. The opportunities there they are just nowhere even remotely similar. All right, here. A few months ago, I got a part-time job, was promised 22. When the check hit my account, they paid 15. I told them RT there to take me off the schedule. I told them right there, yeah, 15. Nah, that's not cool. That's a bait and switch. I do not believe in that at all. I don't believe in bait and switch. I don't believe in fraud. Yeah, Harold, yeah, you have a background in DR, don't you? Yeah, my PEP is a DR, and you make $1,200 a month. There you go. PEP. What do you mean PEP? Somebody is a pediatric doctor, makes $1,200 a month. There you go. So, dang, I hope we didn't lose Tat. Tat, you might have felt we were coming after you, but we're not coming after you, Tat. You know how it is on this channel. Your comment really is more of a launching point for my rant. It's not personal at all. So y'all, rich get richer, poor gets poorer. That is probably true, y'all. That's probably true. The rich probably do get richer and the poor get poorer. But in this country, and I would say most places across the world, the thing you leave out is, but everybody gets better. So if you're going to say rich get richer, poor get poorer, you have to put, if you're being honest, comma, but we all advance at some rate. But we're all getting better over time. That's a true statement. Ty, we were talking about Trump, but then I went on a rant about other stuff. Rich get richer, poor get poorer, comma, but we're all getting better over time. That's a truer statement. That's a truer statement than just rich get richer, poor get poorer, comma, but we're all getting better over time. That would be the full picture. Rich are getting better faster. Poor are getting better slower. But we're all getting better at some rate. Nobody over time is going backward. You might go backward for a moment. You might go backward for a year. You might go backward for 5 years. But the entire group of rich people, they're getting better at this rate. The entire group of poor people, they're getting better at this rate. But everybody's getting better at some rate. So if we say, well, we want the poor to get better at a faster rate, okay, fine. We could talk about how to make that happen, because we're comparing the rate of advance of the rich with the rate of advance of the poor, and the rich are getting better a lot faster. The poor are getting better, but just at a much slower rate compared to other groups. We want them to get better faster. Fine. But we got to be honest that they are getting better. I think that's like the missing thing from the conversation that causes people to fight each other. Everybody's getting better, but can we help these people get better faster? Then I think you would get a lot more buy-in from the people who resist. And a lot of people who resist are middle-class people. You know, you say, look, everybody's getting better, but y'all are going at this. Y'all are getting better at 100%. Middle class is getting better at 40%, and the poor is getting better at 5%. Can we help the poor bring that 5% up to, let's say, 20% or 25%? I think people are like, okay, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, how can we make their progress, their rate of progress, how can we raise the rate of progress? So anyway, y'all, one of my rants, Tat is gone. Tat, we lost Tat. Tat, come back. Tat is mad at us. Tat said, this is ridiculous. Oh, wow. All right. Y'all, if y'all know Tat, tell her come back. Tat's one of our peoples here. So anyway, y'all, I put today as the start of a new era. I put new era. I think the news people are missing the point. I think the news people are missing the point. I do not think that Donald Trump and Elon Musk, I don't think that the news people understand what they're doing. They don't understand what they're doing. Both Donald Trump and Elon Musk are both people who have used very, very high psychological games against the government, and Trump in particular against the people. They play these psychological games. They will continue. You could call it manipulation. You could call it whatever you want. When my kids try to do stuff like this, I call it manipulation. I call it manipulation. I say, look, you can't manipulate me. Donald Trump and Elon Musk will be manipulating us for the next 4 years. So the news, they basically said, well, the manipulation didn't work. Y'all, this is literally just the sticking the pinky toe into the pool. Okay. The manipulation has not even started yet. And I'm not saying the manipulation is necessarily going to be for our detriment. All right. You think about that word manipulation and it sounds like it's all for bad. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. But the manipulation from these two guys is just starting. And I'm not saying, I am using manipulation in the way that you understand it. But I am also saying that manipulation could work out to the benefit of the people. So I'm not saying it's going to necessarily be bad, like the outcome. But the strategy is 100% manipulation. And the idea that we can judge the outcome of this strategy with this first round of back and forth is crazy. So I get it. The news, they need something to talk about. They're a daily business. So do I. I'm here every day. You need something to talk about, so you have to parse and analyze every little thing. But I would like for them to be more honest, at least, and say it for what it is. Look, what we've seen is the first round of the first attempts of these guys to get their way. They didn't get it. It looks like they kind of launched a bit of a Hail Mary. It didn't work, but this is just the opening rounds. So it really remains yet to be seen if they're going to be able to use this and or other strategies to get their way in the long run. That's really a more balanced take as to what we saw with the debt limit not even increase, with Trump trying to get the debt limit removed for 2 years. So I do think we're in a new era, y'all. We're going to see a lot more. We're going to see a lot more of this. This is where we are. This is what we voted for. Trump's going to make huge claims. Trump is going to have what may look like a loss, and he's going to claim it as a win. Trump is going to use his people and interact with people who are using the same tactics as he is, like Elon Musk. So we signed up for this, y'all. We signed up for this with the election. This is what we're going to get. I think this is effective. I really do think this is effective. The news people are claiming that this doesn't work. This does work. This is what the very same news people do to us as well. So I predict that Trump's his strategies will be largely effective, but he won't get everything he wants. Of course not. He may get 70% of what he wants. He may get 60%, but I think he'll get over 50%. I think he'll be able to push and pull us with all of the craziness, because at the end of the day, he's the president. And if he has Elon Musk on his side, you have the richest man in the world plus the U.S. president pushing and pulling you together. That's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough. Oh, Tat, you're back. Very good. So see, y'all are learning, y'all. It's nothing. There's nothing personal here. We just start doing our thing. We rant, we go back and forth. That's what we're here for. Ty says, I don't allow their tactics to influence me. I'm focused on self-improvement so that I can thrive in whatever the future holds. Yeah, so I understand what you're saying to be that they don't emotionally influence you, and that's excellent. I agree with that. And I also agree with focusing on self-improvement. So, that would be the type of advice I would want to give to somebody, but you just said it for yourself. Don't get wrapped up in the bull. Focus on getting better and do what you can do to be adaptable, flexible, valuable to yourself and to others, so that you can thrive no matter what market, future, etc. we're in. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself, right? So Tat, I 100% agree with that. I 100% agree with that. But Tat, Ty, excuse me. But Ty, the tactics will work. They will work on the people. They won't work on you, but they will work, Ty, on the people as a whole. You know what I'm saying? So y'all, this is where we are now. We're in a new era. The Biden era was not like this. the Biden era, Biden, he did his fair share of brinksmanship and exaggeration and whatever, but Biden has nothing on Trump when it comes to this. Now, if you go back to George W. Bush with the Iraq War and all that stuff, we saw another huge example of somebody who was using this kind of stuff, his administration. So here we're back. We're back, y'all. We're back. So buckle up. We're going to be seeing a lot more of this. What is this? Huge promises, mass deportations, huge exaggerations, where Trump says he's going to put 100% tariff on things. He's going to put 100% tariff on Mexico and on Canada, but they're paying attention to him. They find him unstable and unpredictable. So when he says, look, I want y'all to stop the flow of migrants, I want you to stop the flow of drugs, or I'm going to put 100% tariff on you, they're like, no, you won't. And then they're also like, yo, y'all need to crack down on that. Talking to their own people, yo, get that border under control. This guy's crazy. So it's effective, but it causes people. And then people in the news say, well, if you put 100% tariff on it, all of our prices, he's not going to put no 100% tariff, people. Come on. He's not going to do that. Not on everything. I'm not saying he won't do it on something, but he's not going to put like a blanket 100% tariff. Come on. But the news is also helping him by taking it serious. He needs it to be taken seriously so that the other side will do what he wants them to do. Y'all don't see how that works? He wants the other side to take him seriously. He makes an outrageous claim. He wants the other side to take him seriously. The news takes it seriously. And then, due to the news taking it seriously, the other side's like, oh, shoot, maybe he's serious. And they're more likely to do what he wants them to do. Hair Alchemist says, is Trump deporting his wife and her cuz? So is Trump's wife not a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident? I haven't heard of Trump saying he's going to deport permanent residents or U.S. citizens. He's put it like this. He said clearly he has been kind of, when he's talking about kids, but not anything like somebody's wife or something. Morning, Nicole. Bring Big Pharma back home. Bring our chip components factory back home. Yeah, we'll see. We will see. People have said that about Trump's wife. Why would his wife be included if she's a U.S. citizen? I don't get that one. Trump has never said he wanted to deport U.S. citizens. He said he wants to deport people who are illegal. U.S. citizens are not illegal. He did, I think, allude to deporting kids who are like both of their parents are illegally in the country, but the kid is like born here and is a U.S. citizen. So he's like, they can get deported too. That's the only situation where I heard of him talking about U.S. citizen deportation. Obviously, I don't agree with that. And I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't agree with let those people stay at all. I do not agree. If you're talking about people who are not here legally, I don't agree with that at all. I do think there's some people who should be able to stay, but I don't agree with it as a blanket statement. I agree with it as, I agree with there should certainly be some exceptions. And under those exceptions, you're going to probably have millions of people who fall under what I would say as exceptions. But if we're just going to say those people as in everybody, I disagree with that. When people are permanent residents, the type of probation, if they violated the law, that's a reason. I don't know if I would agree with that. Calling it a type of probation, but Either way, I don't know for sure that that's important. That's an important point. Oh, okay. The U.S. citizens. Yeah, well, child, you can't deport a U.S. citizen. I mean, there's no place for them to go because this is their home country. Once you become a U.S., it's like saying kick out a squatter. When a squatter is in somebody's house, you can kick them out. But if you come into their house as a squatter and then you buy the house, you can't kick them out because that's their home now. They own that house. So even if you came in as a squatter and then somehow got the money together and you bought the house, you resolved all your prior issues at that point. That you can't kick somebody out once they actually buy the house. So any U.S. citizen can't be kicked out. They own part of the country, if you will. They don't have a home country outside of the United States. They might have a place they came from, but their home country is now imputed to the United States once they become a citizen. There is no place to kick them to. Morning, Paulette. We're just ranting a little bit about all kinds of political stuff. Letting illegals stay is a slap in the face to those immigrate legally. I more or less agree with that. I mean, there are certain people who come over as children and stuff, you know, when they grow up here. I kind of think they should get an exception. Maybe some other people too, but I don't understand how they receive more financial assistance than citizens. I haven't been able to verify that as a widespread thing, Ty. I have seen reports of that, but I have not seen that as a confirmed, like, widespread program. I have seen reports of the program. I've seen receipts where people supposedly had a lot of money in their account. But I don't really have information about, you know, if that's across the country, if that's just in certain cities, if those were errors where people got deposited more money than they should have. I am personally not convinced that the average illegal person can get more benefits than a U.S. citizen. The average one. Are there some? Probably, you know, under certain extenuating circumstances, maybe. But I haven't seen that it's a widespread thing for everybody. It could be. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. Here in Minnesota, we have a large Somali population, and after getting to know some of the families, I've learned how expensive it is to become a U.S. citizen, how long it takes. Yeah. Remember, I went to law school in Minnesota, and I did meet a lot of Somali people. There are a lot of Somali people in the St. Paul, Minneapolis area. That is definitely. Took your husband 5 years for him to get his green card. Y'all's gonna be tough. Once Trump becomes president, y'all gonna see the immigration's gonna drop. It is gonna drop, period. There's no doubt about it in my mind, because I have personal relationships with people who, and I speak Spanish, and I have personal relationships with people who come and go. And I'm telling you, under the first Trump administration, the amount of coming across the border, it happened, but it was a lot less. And they made it more difficult. So I'm not saying it's going to dry up or stop. It's just going to drop significantly, period. Let's see here. Oh, my wife became a citizen. Well, she got her green card right away. She got her green card right away. She became a citizen. I think she was here like 8 years. Hold up. Why did it take her so long? She got her citizenship in, what was it, 2022? She got like 2 years ago. Yeah, she got here in 2014. Why did it take her 8 years? That's kind of no. She got her passport. No, but she got her citizenship. Then she got her passport right away. Yeah, it took her too long. It took her longer than it should have. One last thing I'm gonna say, y'all, about this topic. of immigration. I was talking to somebody who I talked to about these type of topics, and he's like, man, you know, can they really kick out all the agricultural workers and blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, no, they can't. We can't. We can't kick out all the agricultural workers. We just can't. And we certainly can't expect U.S. citizens to do some of that work. So I'm going to tell you, there's just market factors. There's just factors of the market that are not going to allow the United States to kick all of the immigrants out. You better believe that those agricultural workers and those people are gonna, not saying nobody's gonna go, but there's gonna be enough of them to do that job, period. So how does that work out? I don't know, but it's gonna have to work out. And I'll give you an example. I keep telling y'all, DR have a lot of experience in Dominican Republic. There, they have Haitian immigrants. And when I tell you how they treat the Haitian immigrants, I, with my own eyes, have seen them in a cage, like an actual cage. I've seen Haitian immigrants at the border in a cage. Like what you would, and I mean, like, where you would say, nah, that's not jail, that's a cage. Like they're in a cage. They're about to be deported, I guess. I, with my own eyes, have seen immigration show up and just ask people to see their documents on the street. And you like, why did you ask that person and not that person? So it's not like everybody show me your documents. It's like, hey, you right there. You look like, not that they were looking for this person. They just saw this person. They're in a big paddy wagon that could fit 20 people in the back. In a big paddy wagon, and they could fit 20 people in the back, and they're randomly searching people based on how they look. And they say, their thought process obviously is that there goes a Haitian. How do you know that's a Haitian? Because of what you think a Haitian person looks like. They jump out, they'll travel with a paddy wagon, maybe two or three pickup trucks and some motorcycle cops. And everybody who looks Haitian to them, they will hop out, ask for documents. And if you can't produce something on the spot, you go in this paddy wagon. You don't get to go home to tell your family. You don't get to get your affairs in order. You don't have no kind of legal process where they say this is your court date. You need to no. You show me your papers. Well, how come you didn't ask that? You show me your papers. And if you can't, you going in this paddy wagon, and we literally gonna send you to Haiti today or tomorrow. That's what it's like there. I've seen it. And it's not like I saw it once or twice. That's what it's like. That's what you see. Okay. That's what you see. You didn't see it once. That's the experience. So, but you know what? The Haitians are the ones there who do the construction. I'm sure they do a lot more too. They do the construction. On a construction site, very rarely we see a Dominican person actually doing the construction. They might be supervising, they might be directing, they might be helping out if they're like, hey, let me do it, or I do this the best. But 99% of all people working construction are Haitian. You know what? The construction continues. If they got rid of all the Haitians, there would be no more construction. I have a friend who paid $170,000 for an apartment. And one of the reasons that he didn't get his department delivered in August that just passed, and now they're talking about March of next year. So what, a 8-month delay, is because the Dominican authorities will go and round up the Haitians on the construction site and send them home. And you guess what they do? You know what they do? They just come right back. They literally just get sent to Haiti, and they just get some money together, pay off the border guards, the Dominican border guards, and just come right back, go back to work. You know what you could also do? If you're about to get sent home, you could pay them to let you out. They're going to come back and get you one day, but you can keep working in the meantime. So the point is, you can't stop it. The economy depends on it. if you got rid of all the Haitians, all of the construction in the country would stop immediately, because they don't have enough Dominican people who know how to do that kind of work and who are willing to work for those wages to continue. And they have had a construction boom. So how could they possibly kick out the people that they need to keep the economy going? Now, I'm not saying that's the biggest part of the economy, but it's important. So you have a system where it's much worse for a Haitian than it will ever be for a whatever person here, an illegal immigrant here. And they still can't really do anything about it. They can scare people. They can make people move around. They can kick them out of the country for a couple of weeks. Those people are literally just coming right back. They're just coming right back. I've known people, like I've literally known somebody. When I say somebody, I mean somebody who's working, who got caught, like, yo, where's such and such? Oh, he just got caught. People making calls, hey, can we get him out? Blah, blah, blah. Nah, we couldn't get him out. Couldn't get the money down there in time because they wanted money to let him out. He got sent back to Haiti. My man was back on the job in like 2 weeks. That's the time it took for him to get to Haiti, get the money, come back across the border, get in the bus, all that stuff, and get back to work. So that is a system that's way worse than anything you're going to see here, because what you will never see here, unless this country literally goes way off the rails, you will never see police officer, immigration people who are just riding around some city, stopping people who look illegal, asking them to see their papers. You'll never see that. And I certainly hope we never do. Okay. But you see that in the DR, and even with those types of tactics, even, in high Haitian areas, they'll even just stop cars at random. Hey, show me your paper. They'll look in the car. Do we see somebody who looks Haitian? If so, show me your papers. They stop me like that. You know what I'm saying? And I have to just convince them, yo, I'm not Haitian, I'm American. You know what I mean? And I think due to the accent and stuff, I never actually got hemmed up. They could hear the American accent. It's not a Haitian accent. They could hear it. But I've literally I've been on the line. I've had the immigration guy, yo, show me I don't got my passport with me, my man. You got a picture of it? Nah, I don't. Well, look, you need something. I'm like, dude, listen to the accent. This is American all day, all night. But this is the type of stuff that's happening there. And even with that, they haven't been able to really make a dent, or they certainly haven't been able to stop it. So we're not going to stop it, is my point. Mass deportation or not, it doesn't matter. The people who need to be here to pick the strawberries or whatever, they're going to be here. But you know what Trump is going to do with all of these crazy, promises? He's going to stop the new people who are thinking about taking out a mortgage on their grandmother's home to get the $10,000 that it costs to come from their country across the border. He's going to stop a lot of them from coming, because they're going to say, oh, I might get caught and then I'm going to lose the $10,000 that we don't have. That's what it's all about. It's not so much about the people who are already here. You're going to kick some of the people out. They'll get rid of some of the people for sure. But what he's really going to do is get the word out to the people back in their own country, and he's going to stop them from even making the trek. So that's what a lot of people are not getting with Trump. They don't get, he is essentially putting the world on notice. All of the people who can't afford to come here, well, all the people who are doing a collection, taking out a mortgage on their home, saving up all of your life savings, you about to pay these people to try to come across this border, it's going to all be for naught, because we're going to catch you, we're going to send you back. That is what's happening. The people who are here, he's going to kick some of them out. That's the only way you're going to get the people back home to even believe that it's real. Once that person who's been in the States for a while shows up back home, everybody back home is going to be like, okay, forget it. I'm not going. So yeah, people going to get kicked out. people going to get kicked out. Enough people so that every town and every village and every social media account is going to see some people showing up back home. And the other people who were thinking about making the trek are going to be like, oh, no, it's not worth it. That's what's going to happen. But most of the people who are here, they're not going anywhere. That's just the way it is. You are going to see people getting kicked out. You are going to see people getting kicked out. So don't come back and be like, you said people. Yes, you're going to see hundreds of thousands, maybe 1 million people. I don't know, over 4 years. I wouldn't doubt it. Most of those people are going to be people who literally just got caught at the border, who are going to be sent back. But you're going to see some people who've been here a while getting kicked out too. It's just not going to be anything near what some people are thinking, where it's going to be like, yo, you just rounded up 10 million people. Not even close. Not even close. Not even close. All right. So y'all can literally, if that people are concerned about that, the news is helping Trump by making it sound like this is real, because he needs for it to sound real so that he can negotiate with other countries, so that he can stop people from even thinking about coming. That's what it's all about. So they're helping him. You feel me? Hey, what's up, Stan? I'm just call you Stan. I know I always say your name wrong. There's a legalish path to citizenship, 90-day fiance, or they better use that 10K and get a student visa until they figure. Y'all, I know so many people. I know a lady who got married, and then when she went to her, first of all, Stan, let me say this to you. What you got to understand is this, Stan. The 90-day fiance thing is not a legalish path to citizenship for people who are already in the States. It's not even legal-ish. It's illegal to fraudulently marry for citizenship. That is a crime. So it's not legal-ish. But I know what you're saying. So I'm going to go with the spirit of what you're saying, even though I just want to be clear. If you get married to get citizenship, that is, you literally just committed a crime. Both people. To get a visa or residency. But anyway, let me just go with the spirit of what you're saying. This is the problem for people who are already in the States. You can't do the 90-day fiance thing. Why? Because the 90-day fiance thing requires an interview. If you're in the country illegally, meaning nobody gave you permission to be here, then where would your interview be scheduled? Your interview is going to be scheduled in your home country because nobody knows you're in the United States. So if you're here illegally and you meet I know maybe you're not talking about this, Stan, I get it. I'm just going off on this tangent. If you're here and you meet a U.S. citizen and you want to get married so you can stay, you run into a dilemma. You're not supposed to be here. So you get married. First of all, your marriage license and everything's going to say Georgia. Well, how did you get to Georgia? How did you get married in Georgia? So you already have a problem. And also, even if you didn't run into that problem, they're going to schedule your interview in your country. So now you literally have to leave the United States to go to the interview back home. So that's why you don't see a lot of people who are already here getting married. Now, it does happen, but it's risky because typically speaking, you have to go home to do your interview. And people don't want to go home because they think, well, what if I can't come back? I have to leave my job. I have to leave my kids. I might have to wait 6 months to get a decision. So people don't want to leave the States to go home to do the interview, even if they feel pretty secure that they will get to come back here. Another problem, you have a Georgia marriage certificate. How the heck did you get to Georgia? You weren't even supposed to be in the States. So then that's another issue. Now, Tat, if you're talking about people who are outside of the States and they haven't been here or they are doing this outside the States, you still have that problem of going to this interview and having to convince the consular officer that this is a real thing. And under Trump, I imagine that those denials are going to go up. Under Trump, I imagine that the denials, even for the 90-day fiancé, even for people who get married, I imagine that the denials are going to go up. So I really think that we're going to see it become more difficult to come into the States with Trump, even under a legal means like the 90-day fiancé, even under legal means like, oh, we're married, you know, typically husbands and wives get to come over. I think we're going to see the denial rate for husbands and for like real marriages, like people who really love each other and really just want to come here. We're going to see, I think, the denial rate for those people go up. We're going to see the fiancé visa denial rate go up. That's my prediction. So I'm speaking from my experience with my wife under the last Trump administration, and they played some games with her, in my opinion. I can't say for sure that it was because Trump made it happen, but they played some games with my wife with her citizenship. I'll save that story for another day. But my experience under the Trump administration is, and it's just anecdotal, it's just, you know, just me and her. But my experience was that the Trump administration made things more difficult, and that the Biden administration made things more easy, made it easier. So, Bruce, disagree with me, then we're going to wrap it up. What's your exact disagreement? What do you disagree about what I just said? You don't think the Trump administration is going to make it more difficult to get the fiancé visa or to get the citizenship? Let me see if I can find a quick clip on Trump talking about immigration real quick. Because he did say, and he did have but Bruce, tell me your exact disagreement. What is your disagreement? Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this.
The operation begins before dawn. Agents with ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, who asked us to conceal their identities, gearing up at a parking lot in suburban Boston. We're along for the ride.
We don't do large-scale roundups. Every individual that's here today has come to our attention because they've been arrested by a local municipality for a felony or an egregious crime.
So after several hours of waiting, they've just found one of their targets and we're on the move. When we arrive, we see an immigrant from the Dominican Republic who ICE says is here illegally and is a convicted sex offender.
Y'all, bet you my wife knows this guy. Not everybody, but like she sees people. DR is such a small country. She's like, oh, here's such and such. I'd love to call her in here and see if she knows the guy. If she doesn't know him, I bet you I would put money on it that she knows somebody who knows this guy. I would put money on that. That there's no more than 1 degree of separation between her and this dude.
He tells me he came to the U.S. for a better way of life and denies the charges against him. He's led away in handcuffs. ICE agents have been watching this particular subject for at least a week. On this day, it took about 16 ICE agents to arrest 5 immigrants who ICE says are undocumented, have criminal records, and had been released on bail.
How long did it take? Let me see how long it take.
To arrest 5 immigrants. They're subject for at least a week. On this day, it took about 16 ICE agents to arrest 5 immigrants who ICE says are undocumented, have criminal records, and had been released on bail by local jurisdictions instead of being turned over to ICE, each requiring 40 to 80 hours of surveillance beforehand. Do you have enough resources to do this?
No, we don't. And that's one of the problems that, you know, when jurisdictions don't cooperate with us, we have to go out into the community. which puts our officers at risk.
But these are the waning days of the Biden administration. President-elect Trump won, pledging to do much more, including mass deportations. And after Democratic city and state officials vowed to block Trump's deportation plan, incoming border czar Tom Homan is doubling down with this warning.
Y'all know how crazy this is going to be when there are some areas that work with Trump and they're able to deport people who are committing serious crimes, and the serious criminals start to move to the places that say we won't help with the deportation. Y'all, would you want to live in a city that says we won't help with deportation? Once they start coming out, once they start going to St. Louis, I don't know what the name of the city is. They go to St. Louis, and St. Louis is like, yo, these are all of the mass murderers, the rapists, the criminals. Take them all. Thank you. Then they go to Dallas. These are all the mass murderers, the child offenders. Take them all. Thank you. And then you have a city like, Washington, D.C. is like, we're not helping you. And the word starts getting out. Yo, Washington, D.C. won't help. Yo, everybody's got rounded up in Dallas. Yo, we need to go to D.C. We need to go to D.C. We need to go to D.C. And you start getting all the people in D.C. Would you want to live in D.C.? I wouldn't want to live in D.C. I'm talking about criminals, by the way, because Trump said he's starting with the criminals. This report is about them going after the criminals, the felons. So do you want to live in a city that won't help get felons off the street? That's crazy, y'all. You're going to start seeing, love moves. I guarantee you states will not secede over immigration. I guarantee it. You know why? Because U.S. citizens, once the immigrants start flooding their cities, they're not going to secede from the union to protect immigrants. Any amount of money. U.S. citizens, once your neighborhood that used to be all white, all black, mixed, whatever, once you have like 95% of people who are undocumented in you're gonna, hey, we need to, no, forget that. It's over. It's not gonna happen. Because see, what this is gonna do is gonna create a bifurcation. There's gonna be two types of U.S. city. One that's more or less free of violent immigrant criminals. And again, I'm not saying all immigrants are criminals. My understanding is that the vast majority of them are not. So I'm not trying to group them all together. I'm not one of them guys. So don't misunderstand me. I'm talking about Trump said he's going after the criminals first. So that's what I don't know the number of them, but there's some number. So you're going to find that in the cities that work with the feds, the violent criminals are going to be taken off the streets and sent to their countries. In the cities that don't work with the feds, the violent criminals are going to move there so that they can stay in the country. You will find a concentration of violent criminals in the cities that don't want to work with the feds. And I'm telling you, there's no amount of U.S. citizens that are going to say, yo, let's secede from the states so that we can keep all of the violent criminals. It won't happen. You can kill it. It's over. That'll never happen. So again, I'm not saying that they're all criminals. I mean, being here illegally is a crime, but they're not felons. They're not violent criminals. Don't make me one of those people. I'm not saying most of them. I'm not saying a majority. I'm not saying almost all of them. No. Small number, small percentage of them, of every population are violent criminals. Okay. So that's the deal. But once the cities start working with the federal government to get whatever number it is, whether it's 10, 20, 30, 100, whatever, 500, once the cities start working with the federal government to say, not on my watch, not in my city, and other cities are like, we're not working with them, they're going to start migrating to the cities where they can live and be protected. Do y'all not understand that? You're going to get a concentration of felons who shouldn't be in the country in the cities that will offer them protection from the federal government. There's not going to be any secession over that. What there's going to be is a bunch of sad residents of those cities, and they're going to turn on the government for that. They're going to turn on the government for that. Yes, that's why I'm saying violent criminals. That's why I am specifying. I'm not just talking about people who have committed a crime. I'm talking about violent criminals. Okay. So what we will see over these next 4 years is cities that say, yo, come take these felons off our streets. Come quick. Here they are. We're holding them. We're making it easy for you. And those people will be gone. Then there's other people say, hey, you can't do that here. And the felons that are left in the cities, whichever ones that are left in the cities that haven't got caught yet, that are saying, hey, we'll help, those fellas are going to say, oh, they can't do that to me over here. And they're just going to hop in a bus, in a car, in whatever mode of transportation, and they're going to go to the place where they'll be protected. And you know what? They're still felons. And again, not saying all, not saying most, not saying, I'm saying with whatever number there are, okay, which is a small number judging by the whole population. But how many more felons do you want in your city? Are you saying, oh, well, we can accept another 10 felons here. We can accept another 100 felons. We're a big city. Come on over, 1,000 felons. We can absorb you into the. And again, there are people who are rehabilitated. There are people who have done their time. So, we need to also acknowledge that. Miss Lily, so what about us felons who are in the streets and work every day? I'm confused. So Miss Lily, this is one of these things where people say, well, what about those people? What about them? I mean, I guess that's the question. I'd like to hear the answer to your question. Do you want your city, wherever you live, they catch a U.S. felon who broke a federal law? Miss Lily, do you want them to say, federal government, come get this U.S. felon who broke federal law. We're holding them for you. Or Miss Lily, do you want them to say, we don't work with the federal government. We caught a felon, but you know what? They broke federal law. They didn't break city law. So, let them go. That's my question. Do you want them to hold the U.S. felon for the federal government to come get them when they broke federal law? Or do you want them to say, we don't work with the federal government, so U.S. felon who broke federal law, you can go about your business? That's the question. If you want them to hold the U.S. felon, which they do every day, if you want them to hold the U.S. felon who broke federal law, well, probably should hold every felon who broke federal law so that the feds can come get them. Right or wrong? I mean, am I tripping? Depends on the crime. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't depend on the crime. Okay, so nonviolent crime. So somebody, Miss Lily, hacked into your bank account. They non-violently stole $50,000 from you, non-violently emptied out your bank account, broke a federal law, non-violently took all of your life savings out of your bank account, non-violently. Your people in your city catch that person and have them detained, and you, Miss Lily, are going to say, stop! Don't help the federal government get that person. They didn't hurt anybody. Let that person go. They're not a violent criminal. They didn't have to hurt anybody to steal my life savings. You need to let them go. Come on, Ms. Levy. Let's be reasonable here, please. Let's be reasonable. Let's be reasonable. All right. If you broke the federal law and the city cops catch you, they should turn you over, period. It's just simple. Now, should the city cops be tasked with catching you? Should the city cops have it on their agenda to try to go out and get you, that's a different question. So it's a different question as to whether they should have it like on the top of their priority list to go out and find federal criminals. That's a different question. I don't have a problem if the city's policy is, look, we're not looking to enforce immigration laws. We catch somebody, we come across somebody, we'll hold them, but we're not looking to come across people. We're not trying to come across people. We don't have any priority or objective on any given day to find people who are just here illegally. If that's a city's policy, I can live with that, and I'm totally fine with that. I'm totally fine that they just say, hey, that's a federal law. We're not out here to enforce it. But the moment they find and catch somebody, they should hold them and notify the police. But not because they were looking for them in particular, but they came across them through whatever routine type of work they do, they should hold them. But if they say, look, we're not out here purposefully looking for people, we don't want to purposefully look for people. It's not our job to find these people. We have other stuff we need to do, and we're not going to make it part of our mandate to go out here and looking for. I'm fine with that. But the thing is, once you do detain somebody, you should hold them. That's my point. That's my point. Once you do detain somebody, you should hold them for a certain amount of time. You know, if the Fed's like, yo, you need to hold them for the next, we can't be there for a month. Well, you might let them go. Man, I ain't not holding these people for no month. For you, no. I get that too. So for a reasonable amount of time, you run into somebody, you detain them. If you run into somebody, and you should detain them if you have reasonable suspicion, and you should hold them for a reasonable amount of time, whether it's a couple of days or whatever. I don't know what that would be, depending on your local resources. But the idea that if we run into people, we're purposefully gonna not detain them, that doesn't make sense. Particularly if they're suspected of a serious crime. So I don't think that there is a precedent for the federal government to cause local governments to go out and look for immigrants in their territory. There's precedent that says the federal government cannot force the local governments to do that, and I agree with that. But if they happen to come across people, they should detain them. That's my point. And they should detain them and call the federal government and say, hey, do y'all want to come get these people? And do you want to come get them now or sometime soon? We're not just going to hold them for a year till y'all get around to it. No. You know what I mean? So that's my take. That's my take. I don't believe in mass deportation in the way that Trump has built it. I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think that is going to ever happen. But I also don't believe in the cities saying we're going to protect people. As in, first of all, the federal government can go where they want. So the city really can't protect you from the federal government. But what they can do is say, we won't use our resources to help. I agree with that if they want to do it that way, up to the point where they encounter somebody through happenstance or they have a report. They should detain people that they encounter through happenstance. They should investigate reports when those reports include some kind of felony outside of immigration. If the report includes any kind of felonious activity, they should report it. If that person is undocumented, they should detain that person in that situation. That's just how I see it. But they don't have to go out of their way to find people. The Supreme Court has already ruled on that, and I agree with that. The feds can't make the local government, the local police, enforce federal law, and I agree with that. Okay. Anyway, y'all. Let's see here. So let's give Bruce the final word. Democrats have control of the House, Senate, presidency, and never changed the immigration law. So don't complain when the executive branch enforces the law. Remember, no one's above the law. I would love to see a comprehensive solution. I think our country you know, we have a very common sense solution. Give everybody, get rid of all of the felons. Get rid of all of the felons now. Close the border now. And everybody who's trapped inside, if you've been here for over an X number of years, you have a pathway to residency. Whether it's a pathway to citizenship or not, at least a pathway to residency. So again, close the border today. Get rid of everybody who's a felon, who's committed a felony. You just got to go. I don't care if you served your time or not. You got to go. You're out. Everybody who's committed any kind of felony that we can prove, you're gone. Close the border. And then for the people who can prove that they've been here for over X number of years, I don't think the number should be too high. It shouldn't be more than 5, you know, maybe less, maybe 3. I'm open, just personally. 3, 5 years, whatever. You can prove you've been here. You've been a productive member of society, whatever the case may be. Give those people some kind of pathway to residency. And if citizenship is on the table for them at some point in the future, I don't have a problem with that either. That would be my solution. That would be my solution. Because we need the people, we need the workers, we need the injection of taxes into the tax system, and we need to solve the problem. Nobody's going to be happy 100%. Okay? There's no way you're going to kick out all 10, 15 million people. So Nakia, yeah. So Bruce, I know I said I'm gonna let you have the last word, but Nakia is different. Nakia is saying something different. Let them apply in their own countries. So Nakia, the problem with that is it's a fantasy. So if we were in fantasy world, we want to live in fantasy. I always say to people, like, if we want to live in fantasy land, let's have we're going to live in kind of like not reality. Let's make it big. Let's make it beautiful. You know, if we want to start saying stuff like everybody must go, let them apply in their own countries. Why stop there if we're just going to live in not reality? Why don't we just say we're all rich, we're all beautiful, we're all in great shape, cure cancer? Why don't we just make it heaven? If we're going to live in a not real world and we're just going to put ourselves in fantasy land, why should we just stop at a little bit of fantasy land? Why don't we just make it heaven? Why don't we just all be in heaven all of a sudden? Because that's a much better fantasy than the one you just put. We're already in fantasy. We're already in something that'll never happen. Not saying we won't all make it to heaven, but I'm saying we can't make it happen today. So if we're going to start saying stuff that's impossible, why don't we just make it a big, beautiful dream for all of us? If either we'll make it a big, beautiful dream that's impossible, or we'll just deal with the possibilities and not go off into impossible land. That's the way I see it. And since I'm trying to deal with the actual real world, not fantasy land, maybe saying we're going to kick out all of the people who don't have documents, maybe we shouldn't say that, because that's not going to happen. Nakia, the law is the law. There is no fantasy. So Nakia, you must be new here. You can't get me with this kind of stuff. You will never, ever, 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 ever get me with this type of argumentation. You'll never get it. It's impossible. The day you get me with this, y'all know that your boy is on the decline. You'll know that your boy is on the decline. Okay? So let me explain. Nakia, you said the law is the law. There's no fantasy. That's correct. The law is the law. There is no fantasy. Correct. But you're talking two different things. One, you're talking about what the law says, and I said, let's make a new law. So when I said, let people stay here who have been here a certain amount of time, that is talking about legislation, which is a law. So maybe I'll put in terms that you can understand, Nakia. Let's make a new law that says, and then everything I said. Okay, we'll just put it in terms of the law so that you can get it. Okay, the fact that the law says something, Nakia, does not affect the reality of the thing. Or maybe we should do it the way Nakia says. Why don't we just make a new law that says everybody's in heaven and everybody's perfectly happy and everybody has a perfect body and everybody has a perfect relationship and everybody has whatever they think heaven would be like, they have that times 100. Let's just make a law. Then, according to Nakia, all of a sudden, that's the way reality is. Let's make a new law, y'all, that says everything is perfect. Then, according to Nakia, because it's the law, now reality must comport to the Nakia, maybe reality doesn't always line up with what the law says. Maybe sometimes the law says this and reality gives the law a smack. And now the law is like, oh, shoot. And we say, yo, maybe we should change that law because that law doesn't line up with reality. So if we admit that there are times that the law says this and reality gives the law a bit of a pat, if we can admit that, then we can start to say, well, does the law line up? Does the immigration law line up with reality? We have 10 million people that would need to go home. And we have 330 million people in this country. Let's say all of those people are citizens. And let's say we have another 10 to 15 million people that need to go home according to the law in Nakia. So how many of our citizens are we going to employ, okay, to get 15 million people out of the country? What, 30, 45 million of us? We're going to put like 10, 12% of the entire population, including kids. We're going to employ them in the mass deportation scheme. Come on, man. Let's be real, okay? So it's not going to happen. It's impossible. It can't happen until we invent some kind of teleportation machine where we can just put people in and they can just appear in their country. Till we invent that, it's not going to happen. It's literally impossible. Doesn't matter what the law says. And if the law controls reality, let's just make a law that says we're in a perfect reality. And then we wouldn't need to have any more laws. That law, it is now decreed that all U.S. citizens are in the past, let's include the past too, in the past, present, and forever future in their own version of a perfect reality, as long as it doesn't interfere. So now we already got to start messing it up in a perfect reality that includes all good things and no bad things. Then once we pass that law, according to the Nakia doctrine, we will all be perfect and we won't need any more laws. Every other country does not do it. I literally just told y'all, maybe you were not here, that I live part-time in the Dominican Republic. They have mass deportation there, and there are still more and more Haitian people every day. I've seen the mass deportation with my eyes. I've known people. I've seen the effects of it, and it did not work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work it works to some extent, but it doesn't work to empty the country out of all Haitians. It's impossible. It's not possible, people. Mass deportation is possible, but it's not possible to get it down to like 0 immigrants, is my point. It's not even possible to get it down to like half. You might, through mass deportation, you might be able to get, I don't know, this is just off the top of my head, 5 to 10% of people out, maybe 20. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So again, if we're just going to say everybody must follow the law, all we got to do is pass a law that says everything is perfect. Why would we even mess around with immigration laws if the law can control reality? Why wouldn't we just make a law that says everything's perfect? Then it would just be perfect. We wouldn't need any more laws. Ms. Lely's saying there's not enough resources to mass deport. Not, I mean, if we're saying mass deportation being all of the people, if we say 1 million people, you might be able to get 1 million people out. And that's mass deportation. That's going to take a lot of effort. So I do think there's resources for mass deportation, just not on the scale of like everybody. 500,000 people, maybe. 1 million people, maybe. But if you have 15 million people, that's not even 10%. That's gone. It is mass in the number of people, but it's not when you count it as a percentage of the total. They get SSI, food stamps, housing. How do they qualify? I don't know that to be a fact. Nakia, I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying that I've been on here and I've talked about this a number of times, and I've never seen any proof of that. So don't misunderstand me as me saying you're wrong about that. I don't know. I know a lot of people who are ill. All right, y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all something. Right now where I live, my brother-in-law is here. Okay, my brother-in-law came across the border. You understand? He lives with me. Oh man, see, I was talking to y'all. Now my wife's in here. I can't say it anymore. All right, I can't. That's our secret. Can't say anymore. Okay, I was about to break it down, but now I have a overseer, so I can't give I can't spill all the beans. Okay. Oh man, I was about to break it down for y'all. Y'all was about to get all the information, but the watcher came in. Okay, so I know something about this. I have not personal experience as an immigrant, but just knowing people, so on and so forth. And I can tell you all of the benefits that you've heard about. I wish, because it would be helping my house. My house would be like caked up. My house would be caked up if those kind of benefits was flowing the way that they done told you that they flowing. My house, where I live today, like, I would be caked up a little bit because I'd be like, yo, you got to break some of that up off. Trust. So my house would be more caked up than it is if it was like that. If it was just like, oh, they giving them blah, blah, blah. Oh, I wish. I'm not going to say I wish, but it would be good for me because my house, it'd be like, yo, you getting that? How much you getting? I'm gonna need you to, what was it, 10% for the big guy? So I'd be like, yo, I'd be like 10% for the big guy. You know what I'm saying? You need to break some of that off. Y'all, I'm telling you, unless my man getting something that I don't know about, y'all feel me? Unless he holding back, unless he sandbagging. I don't believe all of that because I'm not seeing it. I think I would be seeing it because I'll be getting a little cut. I'll be like, yo, the rent gonna be, how much is that every month? 10,000? Rent gonna be 3,300. My rent 3,300, my man. Rent 3,300. Well, I could go over there. All right, well, then I guess you gotta move then. Rent up in here is 3,300. Let me see what they giving you every month. Oh yeah, 3,300. $3,300 rent. Yes. Oh, does he have a brother? Who? Does my wife's brother have a brother? My wife's brother is here. I don't know why people believe. I mean, I do know why people believe. I do know. So let me not say I don't know why. I know why people believe it, but all that money that they've been saying they getting, I haven't been seeing it. I haven't seen anybody, and I know quite a few people that came across that border. I have not seen any of that money. Again, I'll be like, yo, can I get a loan? You getting free money? Come on, man. Hook me. That's another thing. If they was getting all that money, you know what the rents would be like, y'all? Good point. Thank you. That's another thing. See, what people have underestimated if they were getting all the money that they've been saying online, the rents in those areas would be astronomical. Rufio says only for a short time in certain areas. That might be more believable, because if it were some kind of blanket thing, the rents would be astronomical. Imagine everybody's getting like 10 G's a month. Yo, the people renting houses, they'd be like, oh, this room is $2,000 a month. This room is $2,500 a month. You're getting 10,000 free. What do you care? Oh, well, I'll go over there. You getting 10,000. This room is $2,450 a month. All of the rents would go up. Everything would go up. Everything would go up if they were getting that amount of free money. Now, Nakia said they're getting Social Security and stuff like that. I do think certain people, I don't know illegals, but once you become a resident, you do qualify for certain things. You do qualify for certain things, like Social Security. You could possibly get. I know a lady who's here who got a residency, who never worked here. She didn't live here. She came here as like an older lady, like as a grandmother. She came here as a grandmother, and she gets Social Security. So yeah, there's certain things that they can get, but that's not the big money. You know, that's not the big money. So anyway, y'all, I know I was gonna wrap this up sooner, but you know, I be ranting. I just like to go on and on and on. Good conversation today, y'all. I definitely do think Trump and them are gonna continue along this exaggerated, outrageous claims, promises, demands. This is the way they work. Y'all, it's been controversial this morning, but y'all know this is how I am. It's nothing personal. I just go in. And we'll be back mañana with a little bit more of my crazy rants and stuff. Y'all, appreciate y'all being here. Have a good Saturday morning. And one last thing before we go. Miss Lily, I'm gonna ask you this. Here, I'm gonna ask you this. Y'all know I don't ask y'all for anything. I never ask y'all for anything. But I'm thinking about asking y'all for something. Not even asking y'all for something. What I'm thinking about, I want to get y'all's opinion on this. My wife yesterday, y'all know my wife is she's I think 10 weeks until she's due. She's kind of big. Not that big, but she's getting a little bigger. Y'all, I'm thinking about putting up an Amazon list for any of the people who would like to contribute to the new baby. Also, I don't have a name. She keeps asking me, what do you want to name her? And I'm like, I don't know. Well, she's almost here. I'm like, I don't know. I'll think about it. I've been thinking about it. I don't have a name either. So I'm thinking about doing an Amazon list for anybody who might want to contribute, who might want to buy something. It'll come to us. Do y'all think, for the baby? Y'all think that? I don't think that would be bad, right? I'm not begging y'all. If you want to do something, you can do it. If not, So I'm gonna tell my wife to make a list, and then if anybody wants to contribute to the new baby who's gonna be here between February and early March, I think y'all can do that. Kiera, what's up? We missed you yesterday. One of our main homies that's here all the time. Kiera, you must be like waking up a little late or something. Y'all can certainly recommend names. How do you pronounce that, Jason? Alizea. Alizea. You know what? That's not a bad name. I'm gonna throw that past my wife. I'm gonna throw that past my wife. She's Spanish though, so she got to be able to. She speaks Spanish, so she's got to be able to pronounce it. You got to keep that in mind. We can't name the baby something that her mom can't pronounce. Okay. We can't name the baby something that her mom can't pronounce. She can say Vanessa, even though they say Vanessa. She can say Rose, even though they say Ro. Okay, not bad. But if she can't pronounce it, it might not fly. So I got to run stuff past her to just see if she could even say it. So Evolette. That's an interesting one. They would say Ebole. They would say Ebole, I believe. How would she say that? I'm gonna ask her how she would pronounce it. I gotta hear my wife pronounce these things to see if it sounds right coming from her, because she'll probably be saying the name as much, if not more, than I say it. And if it sounds terrible coming out of her mouth, I'm not gonna be able to rock with it. So y'all don't. So if you are that type of person, drop some names. Let me put these on a notepad real quick. I'm gonna put Evolette, Alizea. All right, so y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I thank y'all for Monet is a really cool name. I like Monet. Marche. I'm sure my wife can't say that. Man, yes, she can. She can probably say that. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a good Saturday. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.